Humans on the cardboard, welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. This is a very particular video if you have ever been interested in Magnet Warriors or, just have any love for them whatsoever. We're just curious about what's going on with them because you don't know much at all. This is a cool video for you. So, the base of this video is Magnet Warriors stink and they deserve better, and there's a ton of reasons why. I could rant for 20 minutes about why it deserves to. Basic short story is it came out at the Electromagnet Warrior support came out at the exact same time that the ABC structure deck came out. ABCs were immediately meta. Magnet Warriors fell off the face of the earth. ABCs have gotten support since then. Magnet Warriors have gotten little bits of support since then. ABC has remained as a rogue deck in a lot of different formats. Magnet Warriors have just fallen off. Never even a little bit sort of played, and this is a Yugi deck. These are cards played by Yugi, and that's just a damn shame. So the basis of today's video is this archetype stinks. It needs a ton of help. It deserves love from Konami, and I actually think it's one of those archetypes where even though it's never been good ever, it's actually deceptively close to being good, better than you would think. So I've got 7 points of ways that I think Konami should go about helping this archetype, and 3 no-nos that if they did give support to this archetype, that I would want them to absolutely not do. And some of these things are things that we've seen Konami do in the past, especially with anime archetypes. So let's just get into this thing. Let's start off with the first one. These go in order, not super rough order, or super tight order, but roughly in order of how much I would want them to go about this. So the first thing on here, far and away, the most important thing for this archetype is a boss monster. They got Berserkion in their structure deck when ABCs got Dragon Buster. And Dragon Buster, to this day, I still believe is one of the most insane in-archetype boss monsters we've ever seen. The fact that you can contact fuse it from grave. So once you've used all of your pieces as free material to link climb, whatever, get free, other use out of them, then you get a free awesome boss monster that's an interruption. It tags out on the opponent's turn to get you a shart ton of follow-up, and that's what this deck needs. So first and foremost, it's got to be a new boss monster. Best case scenario is just literally make ABC Dragon Buster, but make it for Magnet Warriors. Make it banish Alpha, Beta, and Gamma from hand, field, or grave. Have some sort of interruption. It doesn't even have to be as strong as a quick effect banish. It could be an imperm, right? Target a monster on the field, negate its effects in the turn. It could be that weak as long as it is easy to make like this, and we're using the materials to make other useful things, and has a decent tag out effect. The other problem with Berserkion is that its tag out effect is relying on the opponent destroying your guy by card effect, and that's terrible. That's such a terrible float, whereas just any time during your opponent's turn, you can tag your Buster Dragon out for all 3 names. Now, we don't need something like that because the Magnet Warriors search on summon. That's a little bit too broken, that you would summon 3 bodies and search 2 cards, and they can tag out on the opponent's turn themselves. But even if you just let him maybe tag out for 1 name, just any 1 name of the 3 that are banished, that could be enough because you search a piece of follow-up and then they can tag out again for probably another piece of follow-up. So that should totally be fine, in my opinion. So first and foremost, we need a boss monster. A contact fusion is best case scenario, but if they want to, they, I guess, could do a main deck monster, but it would have to just basically be really strong and not the worst to draw. So ideally, it'd be just a contact fusion to kind of go hand in hand with the ABC cards. All right, next up, we need a spell and trap searcher. The deck doesn't have the most amazing spells in the world, but they have some okay ones between Induction, Reverse, the field spell's not terrible, and there's also a really good follow-up card in a trap card that all have Magnet in the name, so that's fine. They just have no way to get them, and I hate archetypes that work that way, where they have half the deck is unsearchable, so if you open them without the Magnet Warrior monsters, they do nothing for the most part. And if you open the Magnet Warriors without opening the spells and traps, they don't get you to them, so then it's they're not even there. It just doesn't feel like how an archetype should work, right? You have cards in the archetype, you should be able to get them via other cards in the archetype. That just feels like how it should work. So I would like a spell and trap searcher in some way, somehow. It could be a main deck monster, it could be an X deck monster. We'll talk about that a little bit more later on down the list. But I would really love for the engine to be able to actually connect to the spells and traps, because they're not bad, they're just extenders, and that's, it's nothing crazy. And I think that'd totally be fine, and that would be a really nice piece for them. Next up, we need a level 4 or lower monster that is some sort of interruption on summon. That would be so huge. If you don't know, all 3 of the like main deck Electromagnet Warriors have this second effect, where you can tribute these cards as quick effect during the opponent's turn, tribute them for cost to special summon a level 4 Magnet Warrior from your deck as a quick effect. That's really good. There's 2 targets that actually aren't the worst right now. Epsilon's actually the coolest one, the newest card the deck has gotten. But all it does is really get you follow-up. It doesn't interrupt or do anything. Even if it is a weak interruption, I keep saying this, it doesn't have to be the most insane form of interruption. If this deck becomes a mid-range, really grindy deck, it doesn't have to have the most insane forms of interruption because you'll have so much follow-up. So if these cards had a guy to tag into, even if he's just an imperm, he says if he's summoned off of a magnet card's effect, right? So any of these guys, a magnet induction pulling him out of the deck, and then he can either, maybe it's target a card on the field, destroy it, target a monster on the field, negate its effects until the end of the turn, whatever. Excuse me. That is such a key piece because it turns your like basic monsters that really all they do is get you like follow up on the opponent's turn. They actually turn them into interruptions, which makes this deck a much bigger pain to deal with on a regular basis. Because if I go normal summon beta, my opponent goes Ash Imperm, and I have nothing else in hand. If I pass, I have a Dryden, I have an Imperm just by having this guy on the field, and that can actually go a really long way. So really love that. That would be one of the cleanest pieces of support the deck could get, for sure. Because it makes all of the Electromagnet Warriors significantly better. Next up on the list, we need a decent level 8 monster. We really need a decent level 8 monster. Here's the basis for this. In a good world, where the world is just, and Konami gives us a better boss monster instead of Berserkion, and let's say it's a Contact Fusion, that would be ideal. Alpha's still a part you have to play of the deck, and let's be honest, for the 2 level 8 search targets off of Alpha to be Valkyrian, which is literally he's essentially just a vanilla brick that I'm cutting from my list. I'm not playing. And Berserkion, who is a super mediocre, I guess, going second card that takes a ton of setup and is just like he just pops cards on the field. He's fine, and his float effect's not good. So you're losing all your Magnet Warriors to get this guy. If we get an actual like good contact fusing boss monster, you're banishing all your names from grave to summon him. So you probably wouldn't even be set up to summon Berserkion at that point. So we could use just a decent level 8. I don't care what it does. I really don't. It doesn't have to be a new version of a boss monster. It could just be an extender with terrible stats, and maybe it gives you a way to dump an extra name to grave just to help maybe the engine, maybe make it so that Alpha's a little bit better at getting you to all 3 names a little bit quicker. And then, you know what I mean? It gives you an extra, maybe it's an extender that then also dumps another Magnet Warrior name. Boom. You're getting some names in rotation. You're getting an extra body on field to make something from that point. And that could be good enough. It doesn't have to be insane. It could be anything. So just something level 8 that's decent would be really nice to replace Berserkion as the only real search target that Alpha has right now, because I really don't want to have to play this deck where we get support of like everything else that's good, and then I'm like, oh, do I have to play one Berserkion just so I don't just so I'm not plussing off of Alpha, because you feel like you have to plus off of him if you can. I don't want to have to do that. I want to have a card that does something off of Alpha, so that would be really nice. Number 5. Number 5 specifically would be a level 4 or lower extender. Now this I can probably actually just switch Gamma and Beta. This one specifically for Beta, it's kind of the same idea as Alpha in that, yes, we have search targets off of Beta, and they're not bad, but the problem is it doesn't do anything. Right? If I go Beta, search a name, I've used my normal summon, and none of the monsters are extenders. So what I would love to see for this slot is just a level 4 or lower, because that's what he searches at, a level 4 or lower Magnet Warrior, that just jumps on the field. It could literally have no other effect. But like at least it gets me to a Link 2, or just an extra body by normal summoning Beta, and helps me push into more value, which is really good. That's what I would love, because then it feels like Alpha is a play, it feels like Beta is a play, and otherwise it feels like they don't do anything progressively by themselves. So that would be huge there. Next up, number 6 on the list. Now this is not super necessary. This is at the bottom of the list. These would be really nice things to see, but not mandatory at all. I have a Magnet Warrior Link 2. Now the effects on this card literally do not matter. I'm more worried about just getting any sort of Magnet Warrior Link 2. This could do anything that we've already talked about on the list. This could be the Spell and Trap Searcher. This card could just be an Interruption. Like, maybe it has to, like, target a banished, maybe it has to, like, return a banished Magnet Warrior from grave, or from banished to deck to, like, interrupt your opponent. So it does take a little bit of setup, but, like, either way, like, if it's just decent, I'd be happy with that, because it feels like, and this is why they gave ABCs their own Link 2, was because they banished from grave, you just wanted to give them cards that it felt like you were getting good value out of them when you were using them on field, and then you could banish them from grave and feel good about it. Like, you made good use on field, and now you're making good use from grave. If we're just making, I guess we could just make IP Masquerena or something like that on field, and that's not like the end of the world, make an SP Little Knight. But it does feel like if they had their own Link 2, that would just be even better, especially if it gave them, like, especially if the Link 2, even just the Link 2 just said, like, on once per turn you can reborn a Magnet Warrior from grave, because then you get to link off one of the ones that tag out, special summon him back, so now you have the Link 2 plus the way of the ability to tag out. Then you're able to play on the opponent's turn and go from there, gets you extra value. That's fine. So it doesn't have to be amazing, but I just think a Link 2 that just helps in some way to make better value of the bodies on field would be really useful. And the last thing, the seventh thing that I put here, some sort of consistency would be nice. You know what I mean? ABCs have Union Hanger to get literally any light machine Union in the entire game. And while Magnet Warriors, I think their monsters individually are better than just like seeing one ABC piece by itself. And you technically have 9 of them. It would be nice to have like some sort of consistency card, even if it's just a Rhoda that doesn't even have Magnet Warrior in the name, so it's not searchable with the Spell or Trap Searcher, but it's just 3 more copies of a card that says, if you want the Extender Magnet Warrior, you can get that one. If you want Beta, because like you have Gamma in hand, or maybe you already have Beta and you're like, you know what, get Gamma in hand, do like an actual legit combo. That would be nice to give us better utility and just more consistency overall. It's the 7th thing on here. It is not mandatory. The deck doesn't have a win condition, so I highly prioritize that over getting a card that just says be a little bit more consistent, but you guys probably get where I'm coming from there. So those are all the things I would love to see. Now for the no-nos. The big no-nos. The first no-no is Valkyrian. Konami, you have to let him go. Let him live in Yugi's anime deck. Do not force us to play this card. And what I mean by that is like, the current fusion the deck technically has, but no fusion spell and no real consistent way to like get him, is takes Valkyrian and Berserkion, which is terrible. If they give us a new contact fusion, make it take the main deck names. Do not force us to play Valkyrian. That is terrible. I don't want to have to play this brick in the deck just because our win condition requires it. That's terrible. Just let him go. If they want to require us to like have Berserkion as a material, then it is what it is. I can at least swallow that it's like not the worst card in the world, but this card is a vanilla that you're never summoning. So do not make us have to play this card, please. Same thing here. Do not make us have to play the vanillas, whatever the support is. Do not tie it too tightly to the old vanilla monsters. We do not want to have to play these guys at all. That would be absolutely terrible. I have a special place for them in my heart, but competitively, or even like on a rogue level, like this should not be a part of the deck. It just shouldn't. And the last thing is, stay away from main deck boss monsters. Not just making us play Valkyrian or Berserkion, but if they're going to make a new one, don't just do a slightly better version of Berserkion. If they do it, it has to be so good. It has to be so powerful. And it would just be better overall if it was just a contact fusion. So please do not do main deck stuff. It needs to be an extra deck monster. That is what this deck needs more than anything. Help us out. So there you go. That's my overall gist on Magnet Warriors and what I think they need. Obviously, I have 7 things here. That does not mean this deck needs 7 cards, by the way. Like, you know what I mean? Some of these things can definitely see overlap. The level 4 extender or the Link 2 could be the Spell and Trap Searcher, so those can double up. You know what I mean? The decent level 8 could double up as a Spell and Trap card or a consistency card as well if it's like a starter in and of itself, right? So there are multiple ways where these cards can overlap, and it could only be 4 or 5 cards, not necessarily 7. That is not necessarily what we have to see here. And I think that gives a little more possibility for Konami actually giving this kind of support. And plus, it doesn't need all of this. This is like the weaknesses I see for the deck, and if they covered everything, they would cover up those 7 things. But even if we only got 4 out of the 7. I would feel pretty good about it as long as one of them is the boss monster. That's the biggest thing to me. So, yeah, it's a really cool deck. This is the deck for me. This is probably the deck in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! That I look at, and because I love the aesthetic, it has nostalgia for me from the anime, and the way that the cards they already have are actually solid, it makes me feel like if Konami gave them just enough to make them rogue, this would be maybe my favorite deck in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, that's how this deck feels to me. I think there's a decent amount of players that also agree with that. In that sense that, like, it's just that bad deck that they love if it could actually get decent. But Konami has not made that move yet, and hopefully they do sooner than later, because this deck really deserves it. It's a Yu-Gi archetype. Come on, give it some better love. It just needs it. So there you go. I'm out of here for today. Thank you so much for watching. I've rambled enough about a completely irrelevant archetype that you probably don't care about. If you made it this far, though, thank you so much. Subscribe to the channel for more stuff from me down the line. I may do more archetypes like this, or we're going to be in a little bit of a slow season with news, I think, for the next 2 or 3 weeks. So, you know what I mean? Just might be doing some fun, just discussion videos more than big news stuff, but we'll obviously take it as we go. But I'm out of here. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.